Behind the scenes, I picked apricot flower, this flowering tree that lives by me whenever I see the sunrise and I take walks. The way the sunrise and the sunshine shines through this tree, it gives me hope. But at the same time, I'm reminded of the presence of now and how valuable it is to just enjoy the moment that's going on now. Because there's not a guarantee that everything will stay the same and the good things that are happening now will last forever. Eventually, we carry them as gratefulness. What was I grateful for that formed me to be my future self? And what were those wonderful things of the past that formed me to be my present self? Nothing was a waste. Everything came to fit together like a puzzle and be shining and shimmering. Apricot is known to be a flower of good luck and prosperity. It's also known to be a source of comfort for all who look at the origin story. And there's even a theory that this was in the Garden of Eden. And so you'll see apricot in as preserved, as dried fruits in teas. It's so precious. I have friends of so many different cultures, and they share with love little offerings from their homeland, and they shared it with me, and I am so lucky because my heart is all around the world. That's another reason why I translate a lot of my poetry into so many different languages, because I have friends in far-reaching places, but each one of them had an impact on me, broke down this great judgment that I have, this great analysis that I carry. Every day I have to analyze black and white, truth and fiction, truth and fault. And sometimes you have to let go and just be with what's present and observe. And often from our own experience, we carry that bias with us. We carry those pains, those wounds, those second judgments, but we can't help it. At the same time, there's a tenderness and a compassion that reaches out in front of us to everyone we meet, seeing the best in everyone and learning from the situation. And so that is the gift of now. That is the moment that you can hold on to and really reach within and go forward. When I went to the art process, I thought, let me do it simple. What are the shapes? What are the colors? These petals, they kept on flying away. Initially, I started with red as the core. Love being at the core of all we do. When we're looking at now, we're looking at what do I love about my life? What is that love that I share that goes beyond me in every good act that I do, that has an everlasting effect on the next person, on any person that happens to look upon us and our work. The green grass, the green ground, it's a foundation. And in this picture, I had to remind myself that green connects me to Mother Earth, though the petals may be flying in the air, though the flower may be for a moment. And so that was this initial sketch, which was playfully done midday when people usually fall asleep or ask for another coffee. I reach to my colors and I sketch. And here was Neocolor 1, non-soluble coloring crayon. The nice thing about it is I can put watercolor over it and it resists. And I thought of ochre being the golden earth, the golden dirt of the earth. Doesn't it shine? Doesn't sunshine shine between the petals? So the final piece, well, guys, I messed up. I made a mistake. Guys, girls, everyone. Here's this playful warm-up, which is based on the vines, which is based on the lines, which is based on the light, which is based on so many different landscapes and shapes. And it was playfully done with this very first picture of apricot flowers apricot blossoms from the apricot tree. And when I had seen it against the sunlight, against the sunrise, against the morning light, I got inspired. Maybe this can be a prompt for this series of palette stories. Maybe it could be the first prompt, because the petals were like wings to me, fluttering, flapping, flying in the breeze. Lately, it's been windy where I am, and the wind reminds me to let go of the previous year, even though this is a new year. Sometimes it feels like the new year has not started yet. Sometimes it feels like my new beginnings are being held, as if my wings have not grown yet, as if I'm not able to fly, and I'm practicing, and I'm flapping my wings, and I'm trying to gain freedom from the ground. And so that is the intention behind this initial warm-up drawing. And you can see there are times when I'm confused, and there's times when I'm just playful. Okay, let's just go with it. Let's just have these dancing stars as petals between the lines, dancing between the lines, and showing red for the core. But here is a series of photos taken from different light from an app called Hipstamatic. Oh, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but I was appreciating all the colors in this painting. I did use a lot of colors, but it's funny how the light, because the light, we see colors differently, even when we don't see light, even when light shines at a different angle. And again, this photo was the reference photo. And then again, if I'd only done ochre, if I'd only done brown, what would happen? And so there's all these different angles and all these different thoughts while unraveling what does this prompt mean to me? Why the petals flying feels so significant for me on this journey, yet to deeply ground into the presence of now. Even though impermanence, even though change is upon us, there's so much value in now. And I really like looking at a painting with different colors. It gives me ideas. It helps me think out of the box for my next move, for the next process. And this all really did help for the last painting, which you will see in some time. And finally, you will see a process where I truly mess up, but the art process is the same. There are shapes, there is light, there's sky, there's ground. Thus, I was thinking lines of light, and also lines of the branches from the ground, reaching up to the sky. Then the horizon line, or maybe the line that is from the ground where you look up and you see the sky. And last, finally, I move on to the petals and the flowers. And in this process, I was thinking, I'm just going to sketch this playfully, and it's going to be light, and it's going to be fast, and I'm not going to think about it. So I was using India ink, Inktense pencils, which are really great because after you sketch, you can cover it with water, and there's these blurry figures of the lines that were drawn. So in a way, you can start over again, or you could build up, but not be attached to the original sketch. And so here I'm playfully, carefully doing the petals as I see them fluttering in the sky. And what I'm bringing to this process is the lived experience of passing by this tree every day on my walks and noticing it, and noticing when all the petals have flew off the tree and now it's just filled with the potential seeds, which will be fruit. But the flowers are no longer there. And the fragrance of this tree, just its presence, is so sweet and so pleasant and so fresh. that you know that the tree is there. Everything came to fit together like a puzzle and be shining and shimmering. Apricot is known to be a flower of good luck and prosperity. It's also known to be a source of comfort for all who look at the origin story. And there's even a theory that this was in the Garden of Eden. And so you'll see apricot in as preserved, as dried fruits in teas. It's so precious. I have friends of so many different cultures, and they share with love little offerings from their homeland, and they shared it with me. And I am so lucky because my heart is all around the world. I usually have this palette of magenta, turquoise, and purple. So here I start with magenta because my intention is love. Love for now. Love for what's now that may not be there tomorrow. I've learned from my life that I have so many cheerleaders that have taught me along the way. And they were like light, divine light, sunlight in the darkest times. Yet when I go back in gratefulness, return to that place, they're no longer living. They're in the land. They're no longer living, but their descendants are on the land. And I expressed my gratefulness for all I had learned from them, only to find that whose descendant they are, so young, in their 20s, without their parents, without their father, without their mother. And what can I say to that child who has lost their whole link to the discipline, to the values that would be passed to them? And then these branches reaching back to the flower, connecting from the sky to the earth, from the earth to the sky, reaching. So that is what these three colors, it's just the energy moving through the painting. But you can see that there's a lot of playfulness to the form compared to the previous India ink sketching, which disappeared on application of water. Now I'm going to tell you this painting is no longer a painting because I messed up somewhere. And so I started playing with drips and started over again. Now this wasn't a loss because I tried out so many different techniques that I brought to the last painting. The only thing is I overdid it in this one, and that's why it didn't come out. Sometimes you overdo things, sometimes you overplan things, sometimes you put too many details in. And this flower does not need the details because it's light and it's spring and it's fleeting. So here I'm looking at the painting, adding green grass, connecting it to the earth, adding blue sky, connecting it to the sky. But somewhere along the way I overdid it, and the colors, they mixed, and watercolor does its own thing. Sometimes it's not the painting, sometimes it's just a blur. But what you learn is you tried out a whole bunch of different things, and all those practices come to mastery in the last piece or in the next piece. Tracing the sunlight, tracing the rays. And here is where I was thinking, time to add water. But upon adding water, it became pools. Watercolor did its own thing. And this painting no longer exists. but the painting after is simplified, containing the same shapes, the same methods, the same ideas, the same intention. As you can see, this is a simplified version, but the shapes are the same, the dots are the same, the sunlight's the same, the sky's the same, the grass is the same, the branches are the same. But upon doing this, I was zooming in and zooming out, and I was remembering a previous art piece that I made for a sketchbook challenge in the beginning of the pandemic, March of 2020. It was actually another 100-day project. And it was done in pen sketch and colored pencil, and it's very similar to this.